Now let us come down to what are the relations. Now relations again shall be discussed under three headings: cervical, thoracic and abdominal. Let us first finish what are the cervical relations of the esophagus. This is a cut section, horizontal section we have taken at the upper cervical level. Understand the section first. This is the esophagus. This is the trachea in front. This is the thyroid gland. Two lobes of thyroid gland, left and right respectively. Just lateral on both sides of the esophagus are the common carotid arteries. Between the common carotid arteries and the thyroid gland, below the trachea, we have both the recurrent laryngeal nerves. The recurrent laryngeal nerves. Behind the esophagus, we have the vertebral column. In front of the vertebral column, we have the prevertebral layer of muscles which are going to be attached to the vertebral column. Just in front of the vertebral column, in white that you can see, is the prevertebral layer of deep cervical fascia. When we go to head, neck and face, we will read something about what is called as the deep cervical fascia. So, here in front of the vertebral column, in front of the group of the prevertebral muscles, specifically the longest colar muscle, we have a layer of prevertebral fascia which is called as prevertebral layer of deep cervical fascia. This is a cut section to explain the antero-posterior and the lateral relations of the esophagus in the cervical area. So anteriorly you have the trachea and the thyroid gland along with the two lobes of the thyroid gland. Laterally you have the recurrent laryngeal nerve and the common carotid artery. Now on the left side of the common carotid, on the left side of the esophagus in the cervical part, you have something which is called as the thoracic duct. The thoracic duct shall be present. Other than these normal relations, it will be present onto the left side of the esophagus in the cervical area. Posteriorly, you have the vertebral column, prevertebral layer of muscles, and in front of it, you will have the prevertebral layer of deep cervical fascia. So these are the relations of the cervical part of the esophagus. Then come down to the thoracic part of the esophagus. The thoracic part is a long part, around 10 centimeters, right? Which is starting from the superior mediastinum. So the anterior relations of the esophagus according to this diagram shall be trachea, aortic arch, left principal bronchus, and this white outline that we have made, this white outline. This outline is nothing but that of the fibrous pericardium. So anterior to the esophagus, in the thoracic part, the major things that you shall remember according to this diagram, you don't have to mug up, you don't have to do any ratta. Just look at the diagram and you can label the anterior relations of the esophagus. The trachea, the aortic arch, the left principal bronchus and the fibrous pericardium. Posteriorly, what do we have posteriorly? This is esophagus and this was the cut section that we draw. What is posteriorly? The vertebral column. So, the vertebral column along with intervertebral disc. The vertebral column along with the intervertebral disc and the right posterior intercostal arteries. See, from the descending thoracic aorta, you are going to have branches which are going to come out, which are going to supply the posterior mediastinum. So, the right posterior intercostal arteries. First one was thoracic vertebra, intervertebral disc, right posterior intercostal artery, azygous venous system which is present in the posterior mediastinum. The azygous venous system we've seen in the thorax. Please remember, in the thorax we've done the posterior mediastinum. So there is a venous channel which is present in the posterior mediastinum, which is called as the azygous venous system. So when we are discussing one artery, there shall be a vein also. So when we are writing right posterior intercostal artery, we shall write about a vein, and the venous channel is azygous. And thoracic duct. The thoracic duct comes from down. We have discussed the thoracic duct here, that on the left side we have thoracic duct in the cervical part. The same thoracic duct is present throughout the course of the esophagus in the thoracic part of the esophagus. Understood? So quickly revising the anterior relations, you don't have to mug up. Trachea, aortic arch, left principal bronchus, fibrous pericardium. Posterior, vertebral column, intervertebral disc, right posterior intercostal artery, azygous venous system and thoracic duct. Along with this, you have an anterior vagal nerve and a posterior vagal nerve. They are also called as anterior and posterior vagal trunks. So these anterior and posterior vagal trunks are nothing but left and right vagal nerves. They are nothing but left and right vagal nerves. I told you before in the peritoneum that the stomach was initially present like this, then it rotates like this. So the anterior border becomes the left border and the posterior border becomes the right border. So similarly, the left vagal trunk will come in front. So left vagal trunk is nothing but the anterior vagal trunk, and right vagal trunk is nothing but which is the posterior vagal trunk. So these two vagal trunks which are on the sides of the esophagus, the lower part of the esophagus, they make the vagal plexus just before the esophagus enters into the diaphragm. Okay, so you can mention that there are the presence of anterior and posterior vagal trunks also, which are part of the relations of the thoracic part of the esophagus. Next we come down to what are the relations of the small abdominal part. This is the small abdominal part of the esophagus, which is around 1 to 2 centimeters. So anteriorly, in front of the esophagus in the front is the anterior vagal trunk and the left lobe of liver, a large organ. So just a small tiny part of the left lobe of liver is what is present anterior to the esophagus. Posteriorly, the posterior vagal trunk and left crus of diaphragm. Left crus of diaphragm and posterior vagal trunk. These are the relations of the abdominal part of the esophagus. Quickly, anteriorly, cervical part. Quickly we are revising. Esophagus in front, trachea, two lobes of the thyroid. Posteriorly, the vertebral column, the prevertebral muscle, the prevertebral fascia. Laterally, recurrent laryngeal nerve and common carotid artery. On the left side, we will have thoracic duct. When we come down to the thoracic part of the esophagus, anteriorly, trachea, aortic arch, left principal bronchus, fibrous pericardium. Posteriorly, vertebral column, intervertebral disc, posterior, right posterior intercostal artery, right posterior intercostal artery, azygous vein and thoracic duct. On the either sides we will have anterior and posterior vagal trunks. The same vagal trunks will go down to the abdomen. Now coming down to the third part, relations of the esophagus. It's a very small part, therefore not very much of relations. So the lower part of the esophagus will have anteriorly anterior vagal trunk and a small part of the left lobe of liver. Posteriorly, the posterior vagal trunk and left crus of diaphragm. So with this we finish with the relations of esophagus. The arterial supply and the venous drainage of esophagus. For the convenience of students, I have divided into cervical, thoracic and abdominal, lymphatic, arterial supply and venous drainage. Let us come down first to the lymphatic drainage of esophagus. Esophagus plays a crucial role in applied anatomy and in surgical parts. Wherever there is a component of surgery, the lymphatic drainage comes into play. The cervical part of the esophagus drains into the jugulo-omohyoid group of lymph nodes. Jugulo-omohyoid are present here, here and here. The jugulo-omohyoid group of lymph nodes is where the cervical part of the esophagus will drain. Next, coming down to the thoracic part. The thoracic part of the esophagus shall drain into the paratracheal group of lymph nodes, the posterior mediastinal group of lymph nodes, and the tracheobronchial group of lymph nodes. See, the thoracic part is a very large part. It's a very large part. The largest part of the esophagus is the one which is the thoracic part. Therefore, the drainage shall be extensive. It shall be of paratracheal group. It will drain posteriorly into the posterior mediastinal group and the tracheobronchial, that is in the trachea and the bronchus, the lymph node which are parallel or near the tracheobronchial area. They shall also drain the thoracic part of the esophagus. Coming down to the abdominal part of the esophagus, it shall drain into the para-aortic group of lymph nodes. The para-aortic are the ones which are draining the celiac part. The celiac part is the one which is draining the lower end of the esophagus and the stomach. Finally, they are the ones which drain into the para-aortic. So, this is in a gist of the lymphatic drainage of the esophagus in totality. Now, coming down to the arterial and the venous drainage of the esophagus. The cervical part will be supplied by inferior thyroid artery. It shall drain into the same vein, naming the same vein inferior thyroid vein. So, inferior thyroid artery, arterial supply, inferior thyroid vein, the venous drainage. Next, coming down to the thoracic part. The thoracic artery, abdominal artery, is the one which is going to supply the thoracic part of the esophagus. It shall drain into the azygous and the hemiazygous venous system. We've just seen in the relations, the posterior relations of the thoracic part. We have just mentioned in the posterior relations that along with the vertebral column, intervertebral disc, we discussed what were the azygous venous system also. So, the thoracic part of the esophagus shall drain into the azygous and hemiazygous group of veins. Coming down to the abdominal part of the esophagus will drain into the left, shall get the arterial supply from the left gastric artery and it shall drain into the left gastric vein. Okay, the last segment of esophagus. Just before starting the applied anatomy, I just want to finish off with the nerve supply of the esophagus. The esophagus is supplied by the parasympathetic as well as sympathetic nerve plexus. The sympathetic outflow comes from T5 to T9, whereas the parasympathetic is the one which is coming from anterior and posterior vagal trunks. Alright? The parasympathetic is the one which is responsible for the peristaltic movements. Alright? Now, coming down to the most important part of the esophagus, that is the applied anatomy. Esophagus is a very important part and there are a lot of applied anatomic aspects which are related to it. Number one, the gastroesophageal reflux disease, that is also called as GORD. It's a very common problem that people have. They often complain of heartburn or burn soon after they have their food, or soon after they lie down after the food, they have what is called as acidity in a layman language. So gastroesophageal reflux disease is a very common entity that is seen in the clinicians usually face. This is just because the food material from the stomach enters into the lower part of the esophagus and gives a burning sensation. Sometimes there is a lot of belching also of the food. It feels as if the food is coming back into the mouth. So this happens because there is no anatomical sphincter which is present here at the cardiac end of the stomach or the lower end of the esophagus, the right crus of the diaphragm, is the one which winds around the cardiac end of the stomach. It produces a pinch cork mechanism through which the esophageal end is narrowed down. So in many times or many cases, this pinch cork mechanism gives way, it doesn't work sufficiently, and it allows the food to go from the stomach in the reverse direction up to the esophagus, which causes this problem of GORD. The next complication which is related to GORD is related to cancerous part, which is also called as the Barrett's esophagus. Now, the lining epithelium of the esophagus is stratified squamous epithelium, and that of the stomach is simple columnar epithelium. Because of repeated reflux and continuous irritation of the lower end of the esophagus, because of the acid reflux, sometimes this stratified squamous epithelium converts into columnar epithelium and it becomes cancerous. This is called as Barrett's esophagus. The lower end of the esophagus, the epithelial lining changes and leads to resulting into the carcinoma formation. So, gastroesophageal reflux disease is an important part of the applied anatomy of esophagus. Now coming down to the second part, that is the constrictions of the esophagus. While discussing the constrictions of the esophagus, we have told you that during the procedures of endoscopy, the surgeons might face some problems or complications. So during the process of gastrostomy, if the constrictions are in the form of strictures, they are more narrowed down, they will cause problem. So the surgeons need to know the normal places where the constrictions are formed, how much the constrictions are formed. If these constrictions are narrowed down further, they will form what are called as strictures. These strictures, and we've always seen in small children that they come to the OPD, that they have engulfed something and it lodges down here. So foreign body enlargement or foreign body engagement in these strictures is also seen at the constrictions of the esophagus. Next, coming down to what is the Zenker's diverticulum. Now Zenker's diverticulum is caused because of laxity of cricopharyngeus muscle. Because of this, there is an outpouching which is seen of the esophagus from the outer part of the cricopharyngeus, and this forms a diverticulum where the food will also lodge other than going down into the esophagus. So this is called as Zenker's diverticulum, which is present because of the laxity of the cricopharyngeus muscle. Esophageal varices, these are very important places of portocaval anastomosis. In the abdominal part, we've got two systems of veins which are following. One is a portal vein and other is the systemic venous supply. So, the lower end of the esophagus is drained by the azygos and the left gastric vein. The left gastric vein is a part of the portocaval system, whereas the azygos system is a part of the systemic venous system. When a person or patient comes with an increased portal pressure, or which is called as portal hypertension, there is a reverse flow of blood from the portal vein into the left gastric vein. This left gastric vein will anastomose along with the azygos venous system, and here the channels they enlarge. Because of the enlargement, sometimes we have cases of hematemesis. Hematemesis matlab blood ki ulti. So this is very critical, usually seen in patients of cirrhosis of liver, alcoholic liver diseases. You see portal hypertension, And because of portal hypertension, this is one of the sites of portal hypertension when a person vomits blood. Hematemesis, that is what is called as. So two venous systems they need here. One is a portal system and one is a systemic system. Systemic is the one which is of azygous and portal is the one which is of left vestibule. Next, coming down to tracheoesophageal fistula. Now tracheoesophageal fistula is formed because in the embryonic life, the trachea and the esophagus they develop from a single laryngotracheal tube, which is the lower end of the foregut. So when this formation takes place, sometimes a separate septa does not form completely. Esophagus partly may also line with the trachea and the lower part will be a blind end. These are various varieties of how can you find a tracheoesophageal fistula. मतलब क्या है? ट्रकिया और esophagus एक ही बड से फॉर्म होते हैं, उनके बीच में एक सेप्टा फॉर्म होता है. That septa, if it is not formed properly, it will not separate the trachea and esophagus. So because of that, sometimes what happens? अब बच्चा खाना खा रहा है, ठीक है, but it is going into trachea. Lower end of the esophagus is blind. यहाँ कुछ जा ही नहीं रहा है. So food is going into trachea rather than going into esophagus and then to the stomach. So the child will have problem. Similarly here, trachea and esophagus are bound. Esophagus के ऊपर entry नहीं. So these are all embryonic complications. So a pediatrician has to check if a child is coming with some presentations of complaint, mother is complaining of cyanosis or vomiting of food just after meals because it is not going down. So these are all various types of complications that we see of tracheoesophageal fistula. Sometimes you will see a common communication. Both of them are formed, but there will be a common communication. So these are types of tracheoesophageal fistula which are formed because of the lower end of laryngotracheal tube which does not develop properly. The last one is achalasia cardia. Now achalasia cardia is the lower end of esophagus. Sometimes this sphincter is too tight, and because the lower end of the sphincter is too tight, it does not let the food go into the stomach properly. So the food will always be present in the esophagus. This condition is called as achalasia cardia. So with this we finish with the applied anatomy of esophagus.